Hey guys, welcome back to the HEYSHAYLA podcast. Today I have Amber on the podcast talking about low waste, and because low waste, not zero waste. I don't know.
Whatever, it's whatever term. There's like different terms out there for different people, but I think a more accepting term, like open, is and less intimidating is maybe low waste.
Yeah. And yeah, less intimidating for sure.
Yeah.
And sustainability. So you started a zero waste lifestyle in 2017 and then became a mother in 2020. Through your entire pregnancy and the life of your daughter, you've strived to create as little waste as possible. You've learned as many tips about reusing what you have, sourcing baby items secondhand, and how to seek amazing local resources like the Minneapolis Toy Library. I saw this on your stories and my mind was melting.
Right.
To help you minimize the clutter. That's the other part.
Mm-hmm.
So after graduating with a degree in conservative biology, Tear Markets founder Amber, you traveled through South America operating research stations. She felt that the work she was doing to help protect habitat and endangered species was falling short, and that she wanted, I see. Like I'm reading this for the first time. Full disclosure.
That's fine.
I know Amber and I have planned this podcast, I don't know, on and off for a year, and we're finally making it happen. So I'm like, all right, this is awesome. So when you discovered zero waste after moving to Minnesota in 2017, you were empowered to live a waste-free lifestyle and help others do the same. After 2 years of educating yourself, facilitating presentations around the Twin Cities, you started a business called Tear Market, which is the first zero waste store in Minnesota. Now you have, when I wrote this, over 700 products supporting many women, BIPOC, BIPOC, right? Mm-hmm, and help to divert over 34,000 plastic bags from landfills. So I'm sure those numbers are way higher than what that it and then when I wrote this. So that's the whole bio. But now
that's my whole life. You don't have to, that's it.
All right, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Yeah, have a great No, and now I'm excited to have you on because I feel like, well, first, welcome. Thanks for being here. Yeah.
So great to see you.
Yes, I know. As he was just in my lap and I was like, last time I saw you, I was pregnant with this little nugget. And now here she is. But I am excited to have you on because I feel like a lot of times the ease, especially in parenthood, of single use trumps all, because moms are just overwhelmed and they're doing single use diapers and they're doing single use pouches and all of these things just to make life easier.
Right.
But through doing, I do cloth diapering. That's the one thing that I can think of off the top of my head.
Good for you.
Once you figure it out, it's not, I prefer it. Sometimes when my washer was broken and I was like, oh my gosh, cloth diaper, my trash can's full. I have to, I don't know. It's just not that.
Yeah.
Tricky.
And it's not necessarily, I think it's this idea that it's easier because let's use diapers as an example. It's I don't have to wash them, but you have to go to the store and you have to buy them.
Yes.
And then you have to put them in your trash can, and then you have to take out your trash and lug your trash can to the curb in the snow. Mm-hmm. And there are other things that people who are buying single use are doing that if you are doing reusables, you don't even have to do. So I would say in terms of time, it probably ends up being very comparable or even saves you time to do something like cloth diapering. And then that's just time. And then in addition, of course, is money. You are never going and literally throwing diapers away in the trash, which is the money you're spending on that. Right. So that's less time you have to work so that you can afford to do that. So I do think parenthood is sold as this, you won't have the time to do all these things, but I think it's picking and choosing things that are really going to work for you and your lifestyle and your budget, that are sustainable, and really making it a family thing, getting your partner involved. I know a lot of motherhood falls on the woman in that relationship, but making sure your partner is equally invested. They're on board with cloth diapers. They know how to do them. They know how to launder them. They know how to dry them, so that's not just falling all on one person. Also can help ease the burden.
Agreed. I feel like there is usually one primary caregiver who's kind of in charge of these decisions. I'm going to argue that and say, because when I started cloth diapering, Seth was so-so. He was like, really? And I just had to take the initiative. And yes, it is more overwhelming because you're like, another thing, whatever. But then once I just started doing it and I figured out all the tricky things that I need to figure out, he was like, oh, I'm really glad we started this. And it's like, yeah, thanks. And so literally downstairs in the basement, I have like, okay, if you're washing diapers, make sure you turn it to this temperature and you turn this dial to this and da, 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 da. And then when you're done with cloth diapers, make sure you turn it all to this. And I have like them all written out on the just, I don't know, above the dryer and washer.
Yeah.
We do a lot of that because I find that he's happy to help, but he doesn't like, he'll be like, oh, I clean the house. And I'm like, but there's dishes in the sink. He's like, but what about the house? I'm like, I don't really care about the toys on the floor. I care the dishes are really what I focus on. So he's like, well, what do you, so then I'm like, okay, dishes, laundry, and like maybe a mini cleanup. And I wrote it on the fridge. Done.
Done. He sounds great.
Yeah. So it is kind of hard.
That sounds awesome.
Right. But it is kind of hard when you're like wanting to do something and your partner's not on board.
Yeah.
But sometimes
we could have a whole podcast just about that with sustainability.
Amen.
It's so hard. But I think you hit the nail on the head that oftentimes in a relationship, whether it be like a roommate or you're living with your parents or you're living with your partner, there's one person who's maybe more invested than the other person. But once the person who's more invested demonstrates how to do it and works it into a routine, I would say most of the time the other person who was originally hesitant is on board. And they maybe need a little bit of hand holding or a little bit of instruction, but then they're like game. Because we had that same experience with cloth diapers and a lot of other things in the baby world, like looking for secondhand clothes. My husband was like, I don't want to spend my time and energy going around looking for secondhand clothes for our kid. Like, I would rather just go to Target and buy a bunch of new stuff.
Yeah.
But once I kind of said, hey, we have this neighbor who has a kid who's 1 year older. All we have to do is contact them every 3 months at the beginning of the season and say, hey, did so-and-so grow out of their spring clothes yet? Totally. And then we just have to walk around the block, pick up the bin and bring it home. And then it's like, once you kind of demonstrate, okay, it's actually way easier to do that because we're getting a whole bunch of clothes at once. Yeah. And they're already laundered because they were really nice. They send them to us clean. That's way easier than going to Target every few months to get a bunch of clothes for a season. So, and you can totally
see where he's coming from. Like, we've got enough on our plate. Let's just go. This is the place. And you're like, okay, but I figured it out. And he's like, oh, okay. You have a solution that's pretty simple. Great. Let's do that.
Yeah. And it's not like that I'm an anomaly. Like, if you don't have a neighbor, you can go on to Facebook Marketplace and you can find big, people giving away tons of clothes. You can buy an individual piece if you're like, I'm just missing a jacket for my kid. Or there's even some local resources here in Minneapolis, like Kid A is a great local resource that sells used kids clothes. Once Upon a Child, I think it's called, where you can go and you can do all shopping. It's all secondhand. So it's also like very affordable. So there's lots of options. And again, it's like what's going to work for you and your family.
Totally. And even just like cousins, if you're have any sort of family around you, because the people who are having babies before you, and you're like, okay, you're whatever, I will take, do you have any extra clothes? Because a lot of times people are wanting to purge that, especially last kid. They're like, get this out of my house.
My parenting advice is have kids as late as you can in your friend group so you can poach all the things from all your other friends who are like, I am done. Here you go.
Yes, because it's free. I will pay you to get this out of my house.
Right. Nobody wants that.
So done with it. Like, yes.
Take that. I'm done. You enjoy it. You use it. And then most of the time I find I can just pass it on. Same thing. I either put it on Facebook Marketplace or my Buy Nothing group. And people are so excited to get stuff that it's in good condition, that is free. So absolutely. So it keeps things out of the landfill because kids can be so wasteful. Like there are some battles you maybe just don't want to fight. And I've met parents who are like, I can't get my kid to get off the squeezy pouches. Like that's just an area where my kid just loves it. I'm not willing to compromise, but I feel really guilty. So it's like, well, if you can make improvements in all these other areas of your life, don't beat yourself up. And there are even responsible ways you can recycle those. But pick and choose what's going to work for you and don't stress yourself out too much by trying to do everything.
Totally. And we have reusable pouches. We just
those
fill
are
them
great.
up. Yeah. And then you just buy the
great.
huge applesauce and you don't get all the veggies and everything that are supposedly in all the other ones, but
yeah. And you can, those are awesome. And also, you know, like a lot of parents, when they have kids, they start to think about what, it's funny, like we treat our bodies like crap. I'm like, oh, I'll go have a rum and Coke, drink Coca-Cola, it's so good. And then I'm like, no, my kid can't have artificial sugar. Definitely. Or no, like they have to have all natural like sunscreen, you know? And meanwhile, I'm like taking some product, I'm just slathering all over my skin. You know, we treat our kids like way better than we treat ourselves, at least I do. But thinking when I had a kid, all of a sudden it was like everything, even more so, had to be like organic and natural and made with like quality ingredients that were good for the planet. Even though I was like already on that trend. So I love that you have reusable pouches because you can put in whatever ingredients you want into those.
Smoothies,
Yeah, so you can make a smoothie. So if your kid is not one who eats vegetables, they just like are anti-vegetable, you can blend it into the smoothie, make your own, sneak it in there, and then you just simply rewash those. I've even seen stasher bags, the small ones where people make those into popsicles. So you fill it with the smoothie and then you can push up the bottom and it comes out the top. So if you have a kid who like you have a stasher bag, you don't want to go out and buy the reusable pouches, you can even try that. So there are some great ways to really make those so that they really work with like what you're hoping, like nutrition, what you're hoping to put into your kid's body and things like that.
So when you said that you started going zero waste in 2017, I'm looking through the notes again. What does that mean? Were you like hardcore committed to like the person who had just the little plastic baggie of their just single use?
Yeah, for like a whole year. Yeah, there's this iconic picture of like you're holding her jar and it's got like all of her trash from a year.
Yeah.
I think my life before I learned about zero waste movement was really like, oh, I want to live as sustainably as possible. I really care about the environment. I really care about the future. And I was doing all of these things to live as sustainably as possible, but I'd never thought about our trash. And I'd also never thought about our recycling system. I definitely fell victim to this idea that like recycling is the answer. We are supposed to recycle. Recycling is good. I'm a good environmentalist. I put this in my recycling bin. And then when in 2017, when I went to a class called like Transitioning Your Home to Zero Waste, I like was so naive. I was like, I know everything there is to know. And then I started.
Do you need me to teach?
Yeah, I'm like, I'll teach this book. Yeah. And then I learned like 91% of the plastic in our recycling system ends up as trash. It's like not recyclable. Our recycling system is totally broken. We were previously shipping a large percentage of our recycling to China, where it was either getting dumped and not recycled, or it was polluting those communities where it was being recycled. And I just learned like, wow, recycling isn't this answer that I thought it was going to be. Even when I was visiting my parents' home recently in Oregon, their community does not even recycle glass. So like you think, oh, I'm putting this in the recycling bin. Well, in that community, there's just no market for glass. So recycling really isn't the answer. It's not a completely closed loop regenerative resource. It has a large carbon footprint, and a lot of what we put in our recycling bin does become trash. So I started learning, well, what are some ways I could avoid recycling altogether, and especially plastics, learning that really plastic wasn't recycled at all. And so I really started thinking about ways I could adjust my grocery shopping, because that's where I created the most waste, but also how I could buy things differently. Could I buy things locally? Could I buy things that were made of regenerative resources like bamboo instead of plastic? And at that time it was really hard. Like a lot of products that we have on the market today simply didn't exist 4 years ago. But like a bamboo toothbrush, I wanted to get away from using a plastic toothbrush. Every plastic toothbrush you've ever used in your entire life is sitting in a landfill, not decomposing, it's just sitting there. So you think about if you're supposed to change your toothbrush 4 times a year. I've been alive 38 years. That's a lot of toothbrushes that I alone have contributed. So I was like, okay, easy. Instead of using my toothbrush, like this plastic one, I'm going to use a bamboo one. Well, at that time, all I could do was order it on Amazon, which really defeated the purpose right away, because I wanted to shop local. I wanted to keep things as close to Minneapolis as possible so I could keep the carbon footprint low. But then when I did order products that I couldn't find locally, it was like a toothbrush in this big plastic box, like filled with plastic. And it just was like, this is not what I wanted to do. And the more I talked to people around here, the more people said, oh yeah, like I want to live more sustainably, but we don't have local resources, or I'm afraid of greenwashing. So then I started
Which is what? What's greenwashing? Greenwashing
is where you buy a product and you think you're buying an environmental product, then you realize it's not. So a good example of greenwashing might be like laundry detergent. Maybe you're buying a brand that says like eco-friendly. So you buy it and you think, oh, this is a great laundry detergent. It's environmentally friendly. And then you start reading the ingredients and you realize, oh, there's all kinds of things in here that actually are bad for the planet and probably bad for you. But there's not really regulations around people using terms like eco-friendly or green. So you really have to do your research. So that's one thing that I started doing was like, oh, this product that everyone says is environmentally friendly, it's actually not. What's a better product that people can use, that people will really like, that works really well, that maybe is better for the upstream and the downstream. So meaning like where it's manufactured, are people paid a fair wage? Does it take resources out of that community that can't be replenished? Once it's done at the end of its life, where does it go? Does it end up in the trash, or is there no byproduct whatsoever because it's a shampoo bar and it completely disintegrates?
Okay, my anxiety is through the roof right now. Just
well, that's why I'm here.
Because I'm like shampoo, toothbrush, all these things, right?
Well, everything you do, I mean, has a real effect. I mean, look around at your house and how many things you have in your house. It's absolutely amazing how much we've accumulated.
Yeah.
Even like I get like minimalism is great and I strive to be that, but I have so much stuff in my house just like from living a regular life. And all that stuff has a cost and it all has an impact. So what Terra Market tries to do, my company, is we try to look at all the products that are available and we say, what is the best product for our community in Minneapolis? How can we make this product available to more people? How can we bring this product to market? Sometimes we're working with like a super small local vendor who's like, I had this idea for a product. This is like would be great. We know people would love it, but they haven't even like developed it yet. They just have this idea. So we like help them and work with them. Wow. And then we try to really promote this and say like, okay, there are 10,000 kinds of produce bags that you can find on Amazon. We carry the one brand that we really stand behind. It's made of organic cotton. So we know fertilizer wasn't used in the growing of the cotton. It's made in the United States. So the carbon footprint for people is lower, so we really try to say, okay, here's one brand that we love. Here's 3 different sizes. You can take it from here. So we really try to make it people as friendly, as easy for people to shop as possible so that their anxiety doesn't cripple them.
Right.
The fetal position.
Yeah. Well, not even cripple you into just not doing anything about it. Like so overwhelming that you're like, I'm just going to buy my toothbrush. I don't know. I can't keep thinking about this. Yeah. So that's what so basically you just saw demand for a local need for reusable things. You had already done all the research. You were like, okay, let me put together this marketplace.
Yeah. Let me share what I've learned. And I think for me, hearing about climate change and how imminent it is and how so far we've already gone down this path that's like almost irreversible at this point, I thought, well, what is something I can do to help the individual person to live more sustainably? Because I just feel like if I wait for the government to come up with some regulation or we wait for some magic technology, it's going to be too late. So this is kind of what I came up with to help people.
Yeah. And I feel like you're making a huge impact and you've doubled, right? You've got 2 stores now.
Yeah. Now we have a second location in Northeast. Yeah.
Okay. So when I was there, you were just turning on your online thing. Was that like not controversial, but just like difficult decision to make? Because I feel like shipping.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you mean like the carbon footprint associated with shipping?
See, that's what, So you want non-toxic, you want organic, you want grass-fed, you want like things that are good for your body. Then you want to make sure that you've got your that, the carbon footprint, that it's not going to have too much of an impact just by shipping it to your house. Then you've got zero waste, where you're trying not to, like, the things coming out of your house aren't going to destroy the earth. And I feel like when you try to start doing all of it at once, it's like, holy smokes.
Yeah. So I would encourage you to take your own advice. I saw you did like a video where you said, the person who's dieting isn't the person who's doing the dishes, and the person who's living a minimalist lifestyle isn't the person, like, no one's doing it all.
Right.
And so you don't put pressure on yourself to do it all. Yeah. What I highly recommend people do to make it less overwhelming is to first do a trash audit of your home. So what works for me is going to be different than what works for you. So if you look at all your trash, like literally gather it all, look through it, and start to put it into piles, and you can start to see really quick, oh, we create a lot of waste in the bathroom and we're throwing away a lot of this product. Or in the kitchen, we're noticing we're throwing away a lot of this product. And then pick one thing. So whether that be the product in the kitchen, the product in the bathroom, and I recommend doing what's going to make the biggest impact, because then you'll see a big change in the amount of trash, and then hopefully that will motivate you to make another change. But so let's say it's in the kitchen and you realize you're throwing away a lot of food into your trash can, like food scraps from cooking or leftovers that didn't get eaten. Then I would recommend saying, okay, if I am throwing away all this food, what's one thing I could do to either change my behavior, or a product I could start using to swap out a product that's disposable? So in the case of food, I would say, okay, well, if you're throwing away a lot of food, maybe compost would be a really great option for you to start putting that into another bin where that can actually turn into soil and be a resource. And maybe you're lucky enough to have compost like we do in Minneapolis, where they'll pick it up curbside, or maybe you have to start a backyard bin, or maybe there's a community place that you could drop it off at. But Google is your friend, so just use that as a resource. And once you do that, if you can do that and sustain that behavior, I usually like to give a month. Then you can pick a second thing. Okay, the second biggest area I was creating waste was actually in my bathroom, and it was like used menstrual products. Well, is there an alternative for that? Get on Google, reusable menstrual products. It is a thing. It is great. They are comfortable. I highly recommend it.
Well, there's so many options now. I feel like there are a lot of options around all of these things now.
Yes.
Where they weren't necessarily. Yeah.
Now there are the kind of areas people struggle the most are like very specific products. And also a lot of products for like people with like textured hair, or we get a lot of people in the store who say like, I have this kind of skin, like it's so very specific niche products are still not really available, but a lot of things are available now. So I really recommend people to look to Google as a resource for what's out there.
Yeah. Well, and I think kind of what you said before, of once you get that audit and you think, okay, I've got this food waste, either thinking about how to export it better by composting, or figuring out how to import it better by being better with your portion sizes, or making sure you bring it to work so that you're eating it or whatever. And behavioral changes. That's interesting.
Yeah, totally.
So what would you say is like, what is the biggest contributor that you think, or do you think it's, I'll just ask the question, let you answer it. So what do you think is the biggest contributor that people don't necessarily realize
to their waste?
Yeah.
I think it's different for everybody.
Okay.
Most people, I would say, have the biggest hurdle in their kitchen, because everyone eats, whether it be like you're eating leftovers or you're eating takeout. So everyone's like either throwing away or cooking or doing grocery shopping and bringing home stuff that ends up in the trash can. So I think that is hard for people. And I would suggest that anyone who's interested in decreasing their carbon footprint, figure out if where they shop is actually the best place for them. So sometimes if you want to shop in like a bulk section, for example, you might realize that, oh, my local grocery store doesn't have a bulk section. So once a month, I'm going to drive across town, or I'm going to make a special trip when I'm in that side of town. And I'm going to go to like a co-op or a different store that has a bulk section. And I'm going to bring up my own bags and I'm going to stock up. on like my shelf stable goods, for example. So I think what most people find the kitchen is their biggest hurdle, because it's the area they create the most waste. It's also the area typically people spend the most amount of money. But once they start to make just like little tweaks in their behavior, they can displace a lot of waste, which is pretty motivating.
Totally. I believe that. Okay.
And kind of what you were speaking to earlier about like carbon footprint and shipping and even like traveling to new locations to get products that are better for you. That I wish that every community had a zero waste shop that people could like bike to and walk to, or public transportation. But the fact of the matter is, the way our society is built and the way our communities have been built, there are people in rural areas of this country who want to live more sustainably, who do not have access to anything that is sustainably made or eco-friendly. We get comments all the time from people in rural areas, whether that be like Washington State or Alabama, who say, I would love to shop more sustainably, but like nothing like this exists. So my only avenue is online. So we've tried to make it as sustainable as possible by sending people items in either fully compostable bags that they can put in their backyard compost bin, or in returnable containers. So aluminum jars, or specifically a few of our items get shipped in glass, so that people can use those items and send them back. And that way we're not contributing anything to the recycling system. And we really think that until there is a way for people to live as sustainably as they can in their own communities, we want to be a resource for people who want to take that step, who don't have that local choice. And
when you said the recycling thing, what can you recycle?
Or it totally depends on where you live.
Really?
So that's another layer to recycling, is like what you can recycle here in Minneapolis isn't the same as what you can recycle in Washington State. It's just,
or in Lakeville.
It's So for example, a big thing in Minneapolis was a few years ago, they said, we're not recycling any more black plastic. So if you get like a to-go container and it has black plastic on the bottom and a see-through lid, like 99% of the to-go containers around here are, that's trash. And that was like just Minneapolis. So like if you were in Lakeville, you could still recycle it. But if you're in Minneapolis, you can't, because they get sent to different recycling facilities. So that's why when I talk about zero waste, I try to tell people, like, let's try to avoid the recycling altogether, because what you can recycle is different than what I can recycle. And again, 91% of plastics aren't getting recycled anyway. So putting in your recycling system might not even really mean it gets recycled. So if we can avoid even recycling by reusing, thinking outside of the box, thinking creatively, bringing your own produce bags for produce, so that you're not buying the carrots in a plastic bag, but you can get the loose carrots and put them in your own bag and bring them home and reuse that bag. Things like that just is like really simple, but you can avoid a lot of waste.
Seth always laughs at me because I just throw them in my cart. I just
grab
the apple and
free range. Yeah, I'm like, everything's free range, like free range apples.
I'll put them together on the. Yeah,
that's our society, right? Like your husband's like, you weirdo, like you put that, but like you're gonna take it home and wash it anyway.
Right, exactly. I know. So I agree. And I'll put it together for the cashier. I'll put all the apples together for you, so it's easier for you to put.
It's nice. Yeah.
As a parent, what do you feel like are some easy swaps? Obviously, again, everyone's going to be a little bit different, but do you have like a couple simple ones that I feel like a toothbrush is a simple one?
Yeah, toothbrush is a simple one. You can get a bamboo toothbrush for a kid that works great. We carry ones with like all different colors on them. So that's really nice and fun. So even if you have multiple kids, you can be like, oh, yours is the blue one and yours is the yellow one. And that's super fun. I think the biggest areas where I found we create waste are definitely like diapers. So cloth diapers are a great alternative. Even swim diapers. A lot of people don't know you can get a reusable swim diaper. It looks like a cloth diaper in a lot of ways. It's great. So I recommend that. Things like sunscreen, you can get sunscreen in a glass jar or a fully recyclable metal tube. Yeah. So there's like things that if you either search Terra Market's website or go to Google, you can really see like, oh, if you're finding you're like throwing away a lot of something specifically for your kid, then you can find alternatives that are better in terms of packaging. Kids snacks.
Sorry. The sunscreen I talk and so I cut you off, but you said either in glass or what?
A fully recyclable aluminum tube. So think of maybe like it looks like almost like a lotion or something, where you like scrunch up the bottom of the
looks like a toothpaste.
Yeah, like a toothpaste.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I love using your website as a resource because you do all the research. So then I can go to your website and either just order it or be like, okay, what's the best, whatever that is.
Right.
Yeah.
We try to make it easy for you.
Yeah.
And then this is like, as your kid gets older, I think a great alternative to like plastic bags for like lunches and snacks is stasher bags, which I know you've highlighted before, and those are great. Those are like endlessly reusable. You can put your kids' lunches in those. You can use it as an ice pack. So if you want to throw a lunch and then an ice pack in a lunch box,
that's a great idea.
Displace lots of single-use plastic bags.
Yeah.
And then I would recommend that people, if you can't take the time to like make your own kid snacks, like let's say you want to, there are like Lara bars out there or Z bars or things like that a lot of toddlers love. And there are many recipes out there. Pinterest is a great one, a great platform to look for recipes about how to make your own that are like no bake bars, which are great. And I've made them before and my kiddo like loved them. But I go through spurts where I'm like, I have time, I can make these. And then I'm like, I don't have time, I can't make these. So I give myself a break. I know I can't do it all the time. I like to do it when I can. And I collect all the wrappers from all the Z bars and Lara bars and those kinds of things. And then at Terra Market, we have a recycling program with TerraCycle where people can come and they can bring all those wrappers. And then we send the box once it's full to TerraCycle and they make it a compost bins and frisbees and not paper plates, but plates. So they turn it into that's the end of the life. They can't be recycled after that, but it gives them at least one more life that they can be used into something functional.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, and just to make so much sense. So some of the things that we've swapped out were the squeezers, like we talked about. We started a compost bin, and honestly, sometimes I just feed the animals in the backyard. They don't like celery, but I just throw it in the backyard.
What kind of animals do you have?
I like squirrels and bunnies. And
okay, like wild. So you're like feeding the urban wildlife.
Yeah, is that bad?
I do think it depends who you ask.
Okay, cool. Yeah. They're hardy little squirrels, so that's good. And it's right out the window, so the toddler loves it anyway.
I love it. No, I think that's great.
But we also have a compost bin and like a garden that we throw it in as well. And the compost thing, I remember I was a Karen. I looked at my bill and I was like, I am getting charged for this bin and it's not at my house. So I called and I was like, hello, why am I being charged for this bin? And it was the compost bin. And they're like, it's standard. Like everyone is charged for that, whether or not you have it. And I was like, well, then bring it by.
Right.
Why is it not here? So now I put that in there, and my neighbor, she's this older woman who's a saint, but she's like, you should get some of those compostable bags. Cause if you just throw it in willy nilly like that, those squirrels will get in there. And I'm like, lady, I'm feeding them in the backyard too.
Yeah. You're like, Martha, you have no idea what's going on in my backyard right now. There's like a deer having a birthday party back there.
Yes. But then we also did, reusable paper towels, and I just got those off Etsy. I love it. And it's like, people don't understand it. They're like, well, isn't it just like a towel? And I'm like, 100%, but it's a lot of little ones. So I just like use it and then throw it in the wash. And then I'm not like wasting a paper towel where I'm using like a tenth of it and then throwing the rest of it away.
It's great.
Same thing. My husband was like, I don't love these. And I'm like, you haven't bought paper towels either. So you can't hate them that much.
Yeah.
Or like, totally. But then I'll buy a roll or something if we have people over. Cause I'm like, these are kind of stained. I'm not going to put them underneath your utensils.
And that's great. Cause you've probably decreased like so much of the waste. And then you have paper towels when you need them in case of emergency or what have you. Yes. But then most of the time you're using this reusable resource.
It's amazing.
Yeah, those are awesome. That's a great swap. I mean, kids are so messy.
Yes.
And I think even like bibs and burp cloths and those kinds of things, we still have those.
Yes.
Like Bailey's 3, my daughter's 3, and we have those like in every nook and cranny. Like, where's a reusable like bib or burp cloth? Because There's just so much mess.
Totally. I agree with that. And then the other thing was the bar of soap I got from your market. And I was like, really? Like, does this lather? Is this any good? And you're like, I swear I need to actually order a new one because I've been trying to like get on a different shampoo and I can't find anything that I love. And that one, honestly, I brought home and I was like, wow, cause I've tried a few before and they like, they don't lather. They're not any good. And I was like, this one is
great.
fantastic.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. I love our shampoo and conditioner bars, and then our toddler shampoo and conditioner, or shampoo bar and body wash bar is great. And I love it because like we have one where it comes as like a full soap bar, but then I cut it up into pieces so my daughter can like hold it.
Yeah.
She loves it. She takes her washcloth and she puts her soap on there and she washes her body, and then she kind of helps massage it in her hair. And it gives her ownership of like what she's doing. And so, yeah, that's a great product for sure.
Yeah. And well, what's the difference between the two? Because I felt good about using it on my daughter because I was like, this is really
right. It's great. It's fine. I think they say that the Humble Hive brand we carry, which is the kids, is supposed to be more like a tear-free one.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest difference.
That makes sense.
But you can use, I mean, so many of the products we carry, because they are all natural, because they are, but you can use them on your pets. You can use, so like we have bug spray that you can use on your pets, your babies, and yourself. Like you can, most of the products we carry, I think all of the products we carry off the top of my head, you can use for any kind of person, which is great.
So what do you say to somebody who's like, yeah, cool, it's so expensive?
I asked them, I said, like, let's look at the hidden cost here. So there's always a cost to something. So like, I think if you think about paper towels, that's a great example. Like you bought one time a pack of unpaper towels. And how long ago was that?
Like a little less than a year ago.
Okay. And how many rolls of paper towels have you bought since you bought that?
5, maybe. 5.
And previously in a year, how many rolls of paper towels do you think you've bought?
I don't know. What's an average? I don't know.
Yeah. Average family of 4 kids. Look at his back.
She's losing her mind. You couldn't hear it, but I could hear her just
screaming. Yeah. When you like, oh gosh.
Hi. Well, she's just a little barnacle baby and she gets
her teeth are coming in on the bottom.
Oh, you can see teeth?
Oh, geez.
Fun. Let's look at me using a sock as a Kleenex.
How resourceful. I know, you're lucky. Usually I'm like, here, just use my sweater. It's fine. It's fine.
I'll roll the sleeve.
Yeah. Or she just does it. At this age, she just goes, ah, and I'm like,
oh, that's the worst.
Close. Girlfriend, like slow your roll, but there's no saving me. But yeah,
what's an average person using paper towels a year? I don't know.
I mean, that's a great question. And I would say, as someone who hasn't bought paper towels since like 2017, I would say probably, let's say someone buys like one a month, which I think is probably generous. I bet
one roll.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like I'm Googling it. I'm going to be my own. Do you listen to the Joe Rogan podcast?
I don't.
He's got Jamie. Oh, lovely. He's got Jamie's like, Jamie, can you Google that? Jamie. Yeah. So how many, I'm going to do this with one hand, rolls of paper towels. Towels. It's interesting. Does the average person, here we go.
Uh-oh, we got a situation. The face is changing.
She's hungry. According to the statistic, used 8 or more rolls of paper towels in 2022. 8 rolls. I feel like that's so, I feel like it. Okay, hang on.
I feel like that's probably too little, but let's say that's right. Let's say it's 8 rolls. Let's say the average paper towel roll costs you $4. Then 8 times 4 is $32. Your unpaper towels, let's say they cost you $32, which I know the ones at the store, we sell 12 packs for like $32 or 33. I think the price just went up, $33, and 6 packs for like 17. So in 1 year, that would start paying for itself. And then think about if you have those for 10 years and you save $32 a year, that's $320 in 10 years that you save just from paper towels.
Right.
That you could use for other things. So that's like one thing is like the financial savings right there. When people say, oh, it's too expensive. So for reusables, I always say, well, there's financial savings. But then the other thing you want to think about is, yes, it's cheaper for one roll of paper towels as you see it, but like, where was that made? How did it get to you? Once it leaves your house, what happens to it? What happens to the plastic wrapper it came in? Whose community is that trash going to? How are they being affected by it? So if it's getting sent to an incinerator, are there high rates of breast cancer and asthma near the incinerator? What are the health costs of that? So you can really quickly start to extrapolate, like, it seems cheaper, but really what kind of effect is this having on the community and the people who made it? And it's not cheaper. It's never cheaper. It's always much more expensive.
Totally. And kind of like what we said before is you have to pick your battles. So like if truly cost is a factor,
yeah,
you can't think about all those things. But if you're like, okay, I ran out of paper towels, I need to buy a new one. I think it costs like $30 to get a bundle of paper towels. Like it's not cheap. Whenever I had to like rebuy paper towels, or even when I buy toilet paper, it's like, it's not cheap. So if you can replace it, and that's what I've seen a lot of, just like, look, don't do a overhaul of your house, because then guess what? You're just creating a shit ton of trash all at once as you're getting rid of all of this stuff. How about when you run out of your paper towels, get the reusable ones. When you run out of your Ziploc baggies, buy one stasher and another pack of Ziploc baggies. And then when you run out of that one, buy another stasher and another, and just like slowly. And those stashers, I use them for crayons. I use them for, like, there's so many times where I'm like, I'm just going to put the stasher, but like, yeah. And I think that's a really easy way to do it, because you're like, and that makes it less overwhelming too. Like, okay, I ran out of trash bags. What's a good alternative to a trash bag? Now I'm researching one thing at a time instead of every single product in my kitchen at the same time, getting so overwhelmed and then just saying, forget it.
Right. Totally.
So I've kind of tried to do that, but yeah. And then you buy one, and then like, I'm like, native deodorant. That's what I use. This is great. And the people are like, there's fragrance in that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't, but I'm using the cardboard one that's recyclable. Like, and then I get,
then you get heat for it. Oh, that's very good. Well, I mean, and for that person, fragrance might be very important. Like we get some people come in the store who are like, fair trade. I only buy fair trade stuff.
Right.
You know, or we get other people in the store who are like, anti-fluoride. I will not use anything with fluoride. So everyone's got their thing.
Yeah.
What I like to do is say, like, I'm going to try to help you find something that works for you, because, you know, and what works for you and what's important to you isn't the same as what's important to me.
Totally.
So we try to put options out there for people to make it less intimidating, but everyone's got what's important to them, whether that's like organic, local, BIPOC made, you know, then so it's like, people have to really, and that's great. But I've learned can't please everyone. So we try to find different options that work for most people, and let them kind of choose. But I love like what you said about picking one thing at a time. Yeah. Because I think that's the way to do it. Because then that behavior sticks with you. I originally tried to do everything at once overnight. My husband loved that. He was like, wait, where'd the trash can go? I was like, we're taking out, we're not even gonna have a trash can. He's like, whoa, last night I went to bed, we had a trash can in our kitchen. Now there's no trash can. I was like, that's it. No trash. You know, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. But I think choosing one thing that's important to you is kind of the gateway. Like maybe it is local, maybe it is BIPOC, maybe it is, and then it's easier to decide what you're going to do instead of being like, well, I want a bamboo toothbrush, but I can only order it and then it's going to carbon footprint and blah, 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 blah. Like, no, I'm thinking about the bamboo toothbrush right now. I'm going to order it. It's going to come in the mail and I'll figure out how to do it better next time. But I'm already making a step to doing better. And it's, I think it's just that overwhelm.
Yeah. And I think it can take a lot of effort for people, which is one thing to start. And I think that's one thing a lot of people like just immediately get overwhelmed, like, oh, it's going to be so much effort. So what I always recommend doing is like, if you can come into Terra Market, we're there to help you. You don't need to come in and even buy anything. You just can come in and see what you have. And that way, when you're like, oh, I did use my last trash bag, I already know Terra Market sells compostable trash bags that are like fit with my ethos. Okay. So you're not being like, oh, I'm out of trash bags. I need to research it right now. Oh, I have to go across town to get it. Oh, I'm not gonna be able to do that. So I'm just gonna order them the way I've always ordered them before and get stuck in that cycle. So
but you're right. Yeah. Just even walking through, because I remember, I think you have floss. And I was like, what?
I know.
What's wrong with my floss? And so just going through and walking through and seeing the options, knowing that the options exist, I think is really, did I bunk your head? Is really, oh, I did. Oh gosh. Then at least when it happens, you're like, oh wait, I know that there are options for this.
Right. And it makes it just a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Up and down. I get it. You're like a super mom.
Oh,
You're like, oh yeah. You're like running a podcast, having an awesome social media following, breastfeeding your freaking baby while like videotaping yourself. Like, kudos to you.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But remember what you started with about my reel that said that you get to see the front face. You don't get to see yesterday when my toddler was comforting me because I was crying. I'm bawling and she's like, Mommy, I make you feel better. And I'm like, oh. Are you going to talk to your therapist about this later?
She's like, yeah, 100%. So yeah, it was like, you know, if you're overstimulated, if you're working too hard, if you're working and being a mom, if you're like, you know, we all get burnt out and that's okay. And sometimes our 3-year-olds are the ones to pick us back up.
But honestly, just by asking that sweet question, I was like, the world is okay. Like, I guess it's fine that your sister is not napping.
Oh gosh, that's so hard.
Oh, it's the worst.
That's so hard.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I'm just thriving on the outside, struggling on.
Hey, let it out. That's what I'm trying to encourage more and more moms to just be open and honest about their experience being a mom. I know it is so challenging and it's very isolating. And I had my baby right before the pandemic. She was born in January of 2020. So I thought I would have a very different maternity leave, a very different experience with her. Instead, I was just like living in fear, isolated at home, watching working moms on Netflix, just like trying to survive. So I think that put a huge strain on a lot of women. And I think a lot of women work full-time jobs and are full-time moms and don't have enough support.
100%. That's a whole nother podcast. Because I was the same. I gave birth in May 2020 and I had to mourn the village that I thought was coming because it wasn't there and because of COVID. Like it was just such a wild time. But it's a hard line to share because I feel like what happened was people were like, oh, I still do my hair and my makeup and get dressed every day. And I'm a mother who like prances around and imperfect and whatever. And then everybody was like, what the hell? Why am I not that mom? And then everybody felt bad about it. But then everybody started talking about it and sharing the real experience. But then it started to spiral. And I feel like there was a lot of negative talk on social media about like, oh, my kids do this and things are so hard and whatever. And so for me, it's a hard balance to keep of like staying positive and staying real without being negative. You know what I mean? Because you want to show that like, yeah, I cried yesterday. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with that. And that's fine. But I'm not going to sit and complain. I'm not going to try and complain about my children and be like, oh, mom, being a mom is the hard. I don't know. It's just a hard balance, especially on social media to like do that. Yeah.
And I think obviously everyone feels like really differently. And to be honest, I think different people handle motherhood differently. Same with like, honestly, zero waste lifestyle. Some people can jump in 2 feet in and be like, I'm swimming. And other people can be like, I'm sinking.
Funny.
And and you're just kind of finding your way in a way that works for you. And it can be very challenging. And I think probably on social media specifically, you can find accounts for however you're feeling that day.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yes.
you want to sit and be like, I love being a mom. This is great. You can watch those great videos with nice music in the background of moms and their kids and be like, this is the best time of my life. Or if you want the opposite, you can definitely find that too.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. And that is nice that you can find the thing that like sleep training. You've got the people who are like, if you got to cry it out, you got to cry it out. And other people who are like, I will never. And so whatever you align with, you can listen to them and be reaffirmed by them. But if you're on the fence, then it just makes it really confusing because you're like, this is the way. No, this is the way. If you do the other way, you're the worst. If you do the other way, you're too soft. It's just like,
it's a lot. It's a lot to sift through. So I think it's important, like, to have confidence in your ability to decide what is best for you and your family.
Amen to that.
That confidence can be learned over time. It doesn't have to come right away. And I think it's the same with zero waste. Like,
that's so funny. I agree.
Yeah, it's totally the same because it's a lifestyle. Like, you're not doing this to be like, oh, I want to be like, maybe some people are like, I want to have like a beautiful pantry full of like curated mason jars with my shelf stable goods that are all from the bulk section. I'm going to post this on social media.
Yeah.
When a lot of other people are like, hey, I'm just trying to like do my weekly grocery shopping here. And I have my mismatched jars. I don't even have lids. I don't know where the lids are. I'm just putting stuff in there. I'm putting it in my pantry. Things are falling out of my pantry. I'm putting them in, you know, like you can do you in whatever like way it works for you, and just have confidence that like any step you take in the zero waste world is a step in the right direction.
That's so funny that you keep cross-referencing things, because I think you're right. And I think a lot of it comes from, oh good, we're going to have just crackers eating in the mic. I think a lot of it comes from once you know your why. So the same with what we were just talking about, like decide what's important to you and then run with that in motherhood or in zero waste.
Right. Totally. Like, what is your why? For sure. And that will keep you motivated, and that will drive you.
Yeah. I love that. Crunch.
Yum.
All right. I think that was fantastic. I'm so grateful that you came on and chatted with me about this. And I feel like I don't know what to do about the recycling, but I love the idea of like figuring out the thing that's causing you the most waste and either figuring out how to have it not come in or how to more properly get it out.
Yeah. I think that's just like what I recommend to everyone is like a good way to get started. And you can do that same thing with your recycling. So if you go through your recycling bin and you look and you're like, oh, everything in here is like plastic to-go containers.
Mm-hmm.
So an really easy thing to do is to bring your own to-go container to a restaurant. So if you go out to a restaurant.
Have you done that?
Oh, I do it all the time.
Don't they take it from the to-go container and put it in your container?
Never. I would say 90% of the time. So like I go to like Highland Grill in Highland Park and I like get my breakfast. It's my favorite. And then I bring my own container and I just like throw my leftovers in there and I have it sitting on the table.
I'm thinking takeout.
They're like, oh yeah. So sorry, to go in terms of like you go and you eat there. You can also, some places will let you bring your own containers and then they'll put to go food in there, but those are few and far between post COVID. But more like, so that's a little bit.
I felt like so good when I was bringing my cup to Starbucks. I was like, put it in my cup. And then with COVID, they're like, we don't do that anymore. I'm like,
yes. And some of them have gone back to doing it and some of them haven't. So I say, make your coffee at home if you can, or just like decrease, instead of going to Starbucks 7 days a week, maybe you go 4 days a week. So you don't use a new cup every time.
Totally. It was that happened at Starbucks. I'm pretty sure I like handed it to them at the window and I watched them pour it from their cup into my cup. And I was just
yes, it is. I wish like reusables and infrastructures like that were more common. Yeah. More just a place, but
awesome. Well, thank you so much. I loved your wisdom. I loved your conversation. This was so helpful. And I hope that other people decide to make one easy change.
I'd love that. And I think last time you posted something and I think we created like a coupon code for people to use, like a referral code.
Okay.
For people to use if they wanted like a discount. Do you want to do something like that again? Would you think people would find that helpful?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So I could send you like a 10% off coupon code. So do you usually like do a post? We could talk about this later too if you need to go. But you can either like, I can send you the link and give you the name of the code. And then obviously you can, if you do a newsletter, you can include it in the newsletter, or if you do a post, you can put it on the post or whatever.
Oh, I could definitely, I could do all of that because I do a email that goes out usually. And then just when I do I don't usually do a post on my Instagram, but I do stories and that goes in like a highlight. So I think that would be super effective.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Well, great. This was really nice.
This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was great to see you. And I hope things continue to go awesome for you. You seem like you're doing pretty good, except for the cry fest yesterday. But that's normal. You should have seen me at 12 o'clock today.
You're like, can we push it back? I'm like,
yeah, I was like, I looked at my schedule and I was like, oh, we have couples therapy at noon. I know I'm going to be a mess from that. So that's another joy of parenthood that you start having.
Oh my gosh.
Parenthood equals individual therapy 1 week, couples therapy the next.
I think that's smart. I think that's crucial.
I've learned, for me, it is very crucial.
Yeah. I'm a think talker. That's me too. And my husband is not. So I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, yes,
like,
this was, Seth learned this phrase and it was like a game changer for us. Here, I'm going to end this or not end the meeting and the recording. Stop.